As you switch from different thicknesses of fabric, there's going to be a time where you need to adjust the cutting width on your BERNINA L 850 serger. And we've kind of got two ways to do it. So first off, down here is where you can adjust how close the knife is to the needles or how far apart it is. So as I slide this all the way over, you're seeing this entire part move into a further position. So as we push that all the way over and then serge, you're kind of seeing that there's a lot of fabric being left in to be cut between all the loopers. And as you can see close up, this fabric doesn't even lay flat. It's kind of cupped in here, and that's because there's so much fabric that it's kind of trying to escape. It's not forming that nice flat finish that we are looking for. And that's because the knife is so far away from the needles. So it's not really like difference in stitch width like a sewing machine, but cutting width cuts off more of that fabric so that there's less for it to be encased in the overlock edge. So every fabric's going to be different. You do want to kind of find where it looks balanced, as in the stitches aren't trying to push away from each other and don't have a flat look. So it is something that you have to play with. Now, there is another part of the serger here that is called the micro thread control, and that's this knob right here. So not only can you adjust where the cutting width or the cutter is cutting the fabric before it reaches the needles, the next thing that BERNINA sergers have is an option. If you watch right down here, you'll see what I'm talking about that's moving. So see that little finger that's kind of going left and right. So what we're able to do is kind of slide the stitches to form further out on the edge of the fabric, or not so far out, kind of bringing it closer in. Now, if you're not sure where to set it, there is kind of a zero location, kind of a middle one. Line that up with the line that's on the housing, and then start from there. But what you can do is fine tune where you can get the most perfect overlock stitch to accommodate the thicknesses of fabric. Thin fabric is going to need something one way, and thicker fabric something else. So here's a trick. Usually with thicker fabric, things are pushed more towards the needles, and sometimes thinner fabric, you're kind of finding where that happy middle is. So you're not getting what you're seeing right here, where it's kind of too much fabric all in the overlock. Just a note, one thing that I'm always a fan of is always leaving the knife engaged. So even if you're not trying, if you're wanting to not cut off the edge of the fabric, that you actually just run this edge of the fabric right beside the knife. It's a nice visual guide. See where it's actually cutting or would be cutting if I guided my fabric right along that edge. We'll just see if I can get, oh yeah, just barely kind of coming close to that. But if you take the knife out of commission, you turn it out of the way, which you can do on this serger, but I'm not a fan of, because if your fabric was to drift further than that knife would have cut it, it's going to get kind of caught in the upper looper. Trust me, that's not something that you want to deal with at 1,500 stitches per minute. So leave your knife engaged. If you do want to if you don't want to cut something off, just go ahead and use it as a visual guide and run your fabric right next to the blade.